The kitchen light flickered like a dying heartbeat when I walked through the door at 11:47 p.m., bone-tired from another 16-hour shift pouring concrete in the November cold. My boots left muddy prints across Noelle's pristine white tiles, the ones she'd insisted we couldn't afford but bought anyway, with money I'd never seen leave our account. Her iPhone sat face up on the granite countertop, screen glowing with notifications. Dozens of them. Hearts, laughing emojis, congratulations messages flooding in faster than I could read. The shower was running upstairs, Noelle's voice carrying down the hall as she hummed some pop song I didn't recognize. I shouldn't have looked. Should have walked past, grabbed a beer, collapsed on the couch like every other night for the past 3 years. But the phone kept buzzing, and one comment caught my eye. "OMG girl, you're glowing. When did you find out?" My stomach dropped to my steel-toed boots. The post was a photo of Noelle in our bedroom mirror, hands cradling her belly, beaming smile plastered across her face. The caption read, "Finally pregnant. Time to lock this idiot down. #blessed #baby mama #go team." I stared at the screen, my mind racing through calculations. I'd been deployed for 8 months, came back 6 weeks ago. Unless she'd been hiding this pregnancy since before I left. "Eddie? That you, baby?" Noelle's voice drifted down from upstairs, sweet as poisoned honey. I scrolled through the comments. Her sister. "About time you trapped him." Her best friend, Serena. "Girl, you are evil, and I am here for it." Some guy named Griffin with a blue checkmark. "Can't wait to meet our little miracle." Our little miracle. The shower shut off. I heard Noelle's feet padding across the hardwood floor above, and something cold settled in my chest. Not anger yet. That would come later. This was something sharper, cleaner. Recognition. Nah, I'd been played. "Eddie, you okay down there?" Footsteps on the stairs now. I took a photo of her phone screen with mine, then set hers back exactly where I'd found it. By the time she appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair wrapped in a towel, body wrapped in my old army t-shirt, I was leaning against the counter with my arms crossed, wearing what she used to call my poker face. "Hey, stranger." She padded over and stood on her tiptoes to kiss my cheek. "How was work?" "Long." I nodded toward her phone. "Busy night for you too, looks like." Her eyes flicked to the device, and I watched her face change. The color drained from her cheeks as she snatched up the phone, fingers flying across the screen. "Oh God. Oh shit. Eddie, I can explain. Can you?" I kept my voice level, conversational. "Because I'm really curious about the timeline here, Noelle. See, I've been gone 8 months. You're what, 12 weeks along based on that little bump you're showing off?" Her thumb was jabbing at the delete button, but the damage was done. In the age of screenshots, nothing ever really disappears. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you've been screwing around while I was overseas, got knocked up by some guy named Griffin, and decided to pin it on me. I pulled out my own phone, showed her the photo I'd taken. "But hey, at least you're honest about wanting to lock this idiot down." "Eeny or meeny." She stared at the evidence in my hands, and I watched her cycle through emotions like a slot machine. Panic, anger, calculation, and finally, the one that told me everything I needed to know. Defiance. "You went through my phone. It was sitting right there, lighting up like Times Square. Hard to miss." I slipped my phone back into my pocket. "So who's Griffin?" He's nobody, just a friend from work." "Friends from work don't usually talk about our little miracle, but what do I know? I'm just the idiot you're trying to lock down." Noelle's face crumpled, and for a second I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the comments, the laughing emojis, the casual cruelty of that caption. "Eddie, please. I made a mistake. I was lonely, and you were gone so long, and you decided to audition for my replacement." "It's not like that." "Then what's it like, Noelle? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been living a double life while I was getting shot at in Afghanistan, so you could afford this house and that car and those designer handbags you think I don't notice." She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly looking small and young. "I never meant for it to happen. But it did happen. For months, apparently. And now there's a baby involved." I pushed off from the counter, suddenly exhausted. Whose baby is it really? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. Noelle's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. That's what I thought." I headed for the stairs. "I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow we're going to have a longer conversation about how this is going to work." Eddie, wait. I paused at the bottom of the stairs and looked back at her. She was still standing in the kitchen, phone clutched to her chest, looking like a stranger wearing my wife's face. You know what the funny thing is? I said. I actually missed you while I was over there. Couldn't wait to get home and start our life together. Guess the joke's on me. I climbed the stairs, leaving her standing in the wreckage of her perfect plan. 3 days passed in careful silence. Noelle tried to act normal, making coffee in the morning, asking about my day, pretending her phone hadn't blown up our marriage. But I could see the cracks forming. She jumped every time I walked into a room, watched me like she was waiting for an explosion that never came. I wasn't ready to explode yet. I was still gathering intelligence. 20 years in the army teaches you patience, teaches you to observe, plan, and execute with precision. Noelle thought she was dealing with the same blue-collar guy who'd married her 5 years ago, the one who solved problems with his fists and his heart instead of his head. She was wrong. I started with the obvious stuff. Our joint bank account showed regular withdrawals I didn't recognize. $200 here, $500 there, always in cash. Hotel charges on her credit card for nights when she claimed to be working late. Uber rides to addresses across town that didn't match any of her usual haunts. Then I got creative. Our cell phone plan included location tracking, something we'd set up years ago for safety, back when we actually cared about each other's well-being. The data painted a clear picture. Twice weekly visits to a high-rise apartment building downtown, always during lunch hours or after work. The same building where Griffin Marchand lived, according to the property records I pulled from the city database. Griffin turned out to be quite a catch, at least on paper. Senior Vice President at TechFlow Solutions, the company where Noelle worked in HR. Divorced, no kids, driving a BMW that cost more than I made in a year. His LinkedIn profile showed him at company parties, always with a drink in his hand and a smug smile on his face. I printed out his photo and studied it over my morning coffee. Weak chin, soft hands, the kind of guy who'd never done a day of physical labor in his life. Everything I wasn't. "You're up early," Noelle said, appearing in the kitchen doorway like a guilty ghost. "Couldn't sleep." I folded the papers and slipped them into my jacket pocket. Thinking about the future. She poured herself coffee with shaking hands. "Eddie, we need to talk about..." "About what? Your boyfriend? Your pregnancy? Your plan to make me raise another man's kid?" I kept my voice conversational, almost friendly. "Or did you want to discuss something else? Please don't be like this." "Like what? Informed?" "Because I've got to tell you, Noelle, ignorance was a lot more comfortable." She sat down across from me, cradling her mug like a shield. "What do you want me to say? I want you to tell me the truth, all of it. How long has this been going on? How many people know? What was the plan? Were you going to divorce me after the baby was born? Or just keep playing house while you screwed around with your boss?" "He's not my boss. He's a VP and you're in HR. That's close enough." I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. "Does he know about me? About us?" Her silence was answer enough. "Let me guess. You told him you were separated. Unhappy marriage, husband who doesn't understand you, all the greatest hits." I nodded toward her belly. "What happens when Junior arrives? You going to put his name on the birth certificate?" "I don't know." The words exploded out of her, raw and desperate. "I don't know what I'm doing, okay? I screwed up. I know I screwed up, but I can't take it back now." "No, you can't." I stood up, grabbed my keys from the counter. "But you can be honest about what comes next. Where are you going?" "Work. Some of us still have jobs to do." I paused at the door. "Oh, and Noelle? You might want to think about telling Griffin he's going to be a daddy, assuming he doesn't already know." The construction site was my sanctuary, the one place where problems had simple solutions, and honest work got honest results. I'd been foreman on this project for 6 months, turning an empty lot into a 12-story office building that would outlast all of us. "You look like hell, Eddie." Big Mike Kowalski appeared at my elbow, hard hat tilted back on his massive head. Mike was my right hand on the crew, a gentle giant who could lift a steel beam by himself, but wouldn't hurt a fly unless that fly threatened someone he cared about. "I feel worse than I look. Woman troubles?" I'd known Mike for 8 years. He'd been at my wedding, helped me move into the house, covered my shifts when I got deployed. If anyone deserved the truth, it was him. "Noelle's pregnant." "Hey, that's great. Congratulations, man. When's the baby due?" "It's not mine." Mike's smile died. He was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications. "You sure?" Math doesn't lie. I've been back 6 weeks. She's 12 weeks along. Shit, Eddie. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. I picked up my clipboard, tried to focus on the day's work orders. You know what the worst part is? I actually wanted kids with her. Spent 2 years trying before I got deployed, went to doctors, did all the tests. They said we were both fine, just needed to keep trying. What are you going to do? That was the million-dollar question. The old Eddie would have confronted Griffin directly, probably with his fists, would have screamed at Noelle, thrown things, made a scene. But 20 years in the military had taught me something valuable. The best revenge is surgical, precise, and completely unexpected. I'm going to make them pay, I said quietly. Both of them, but not the way they're expecting. Mike nodded slowly. He understood. You need anything, you let me know. Actually, there is something. I pulled out Griffin's photo. Ever seen this guy around the neighborhood? Mike studied the picture, his expression darkening. Pretty boy in the Beamer? Yeah, I've seen him. Parks outside your house sometimes when you're at work. Thought he was lost or something. The rage that had been simmering in my chest for 3 days finally found its target. Griffin hadn't just been sleeping with my wife. He'd been doing it in my house, in my bed, while I was overseas fighting for my country. Mike? Yeah? How do you feel about working late tonight? Griffin Marchand lived in Riverside Towers, a glass monument to tech money and entitled mediocrity. The kind of building where the doorman wore a better suit than most people owned, and the elevator required a key card just to visit the upper floors. I didn't need to go upstairs. The parking garage was accessible from the street level, and Griffin's BMW was exactly where Noelle's location data said it would be, slot 47B, gleaming under the fluorescent lights like a silver trophy. Nice ride, Mike whispered, running his hand along the pristine paint job. Shame if something happened to it. We'd come prepared. Pink spray paint, the kind teenage girls used for prom posters, a cordless drill with a 1/4-inch bit, and my personal favorite, a 5-pound bag of sugar, courtesy of the construction site's coffee station. The security cameras were a joke, positioned to catch faces but not hands. We stayed low, worked fast, and within 10 minutes, Griffin's pride and joy had been transformed into a very expensive lesson about consequences. Homewrecker was spelled out in hot pink letters across the driver's side. The tires weren't slashed. That would be destruction of property. But they were definitely flat, thanks to 4 carefully placed screws that would look like random road debris to any investigating officer. The sugar went into the gas tank with a funnel. Sweet revenge that would turn his engine into very expensive scrap metal the moment he tried to start it. Think he'll get the message? Mike asked as we packed up our supplies. Oh, he'll get it. Question is whether he'll be smart enough to heed it. We were 3 blocks away when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. WHO, the fuck are you and what do you want? I showed the message to Mike, who grinned like a kid on Christmas morning. Hook, line, and sinker, I typed back. I'm the husband. What I want is for you to stay away from my wife. The response came immediately. She doesn't love you anymore. Maybe not, but she's still married to me. And you're still screwing another man's wife in his house while he's deployed. How does that feel, Griffin? 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before the next message arrived. This isn't over. You're right, I typed. It's just getting started. I blocked his number and turned off my phone. Let him stew in his own anger for a while. Tomorrow would bring fresh opportunities for education. Noelle was waiting in the living room when I got home, perched on the edge of the couch like she was ready to run. Her phone was clutched in her hands, screen glowing with what I assumed were frantic messages from her boyfriend. Griffin's car was vandalized tonight, she said without preamble. That's terrible. Crime's really getting bad in this city. Eddie, did you call the police? File a report? I hope he has good insurance. She stared at me, searching my face for any sign of guilt or satisfaction. I kept my expression neutral, concerned, the face of a caring neighbor hearing about local crime. Where were you tonight? Working late with Mike. We're behind schedule on the Morrison project. I pulled out my phone, showed her a photo of the construction site taken at 9 p.m. You can ask him if you want, or check the time clock records. It wasn't technically a lie. We had been working, just not on construction. This has to stop. What has to stop? Random vandalism? I agree, it's a real problem. Maybe Griffin should park somewhere safer. You know what I mean. I sat down in my recliner, picked up the TV remote. Actually, I don't. You want to be more specific? She stood up abruptly, started pacing. I know you're angry. I know I hurt you. But taking it out on innocent people isn't going to solve anything. Innocent people? I muted the TV, gave her my full attention. That's an interesting choice of words, Noelle. Would you describe Griffin as innocent? He didn't know I was married when we met, but he knows now, has known for months, and he's still sleeping with you. I leaned forward. In our bed, in our house, while I was getting shot at overseas. Her face went white. How did you location tracking on your phone? Joint credit card statements. The fact that our neighbor Mrs. Patterson has been asking me about my friend who visits when I'm not home. I ticked off the evidence on my fingers. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Or did you just not care? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Walk me through the plan, because I'm genuinely curious about the thought process here. She collapsed back onto the couch, finally looking like the guilty party she was. There wasn't a plan. It just happened. Bullshit. That social media post didn't just happen. Time to lock this idiot down. That was a plan, Noelle. A calculated decision to trick me into raising another man's child. I was scared. Of what? The truth? Consequences? Having to face the fact that you blew up your marriage for a guy who drives a fancy car? Of losing everything? The honesty in her voice surprised me. For the first time since I'd found that phone, she sounded like the woman I'd married. Vulnerable, flawed, human. You already lost everything, I said quietly. The moment you brought him into our house. The moment you decided I was worth less than whatever he was offering. The moment you chose him over me. She started crying then. Big, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to pretend we could work through this like adults. But that part was getting smaller every day, crowded out by cold calculation and the growing certainty that some betrayals couldn't be forgiven. What happens now? She whispered. I turned the TV volume back up, effectively ending the conversation. Now you figure out how to clean up the mess you made. And Griffin figures out that married women come with complications he's not equipped to handle. Eddie. I'm tired, Noelle. It's been a long day, and tomorrow's going to be longer. You should probably call your boyfriend, make sure he's okay. I hear vandalism can be really traumatic for people who aren't used to consequences. She stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed her phone and headed upstairs. I heard her bedroom door slam, followed by muffled conversation that went on for over an hour. Let them plan. Let them strategize. Let them think they were dealing with a predictable, emotional response from a heartbroken husband. They had no idea what was coming. The next morning brought fresh intelligence, courtesy of Mrs. Patterson from next door. She appeared at my front door at 7 a.m. sharp, carrying a plate of cookies and wearing the expression of someone bursting with gossip. Eddie, dear, I hope you don't mind me stopping by so early. Not at all, Mrs. Patterson. Coffee? That would be lovely. She settled into my kitchen chair like she was preparing for a long conversation. I wanted to talk to you about something I saw yesterday. I poured 2 cups, added cream to hers the way she liked it. Mrs. Patterson was 73 years old, retired from 40 years as a high school principal, and missed absolutely nothing that happened on our street. What's on your mind? That man who's been visiting Noelle while you're at work. I saw him yesterday afternoon, and he looked quite upset. Agitated, you might say. Oh? He was pacing on your front porch, checking his phone constantly. When Noelle finally answered the door, they had quite the heated discussion. I couldn't hear what they were saying, of course, but the body language was very telling. Of course she couldn't hear them. Mrs. Patterson's hearing was perfect, and her living room window faced my front door from exactly the right angle to catch every word. But I appreciated her discretion. I hope everything's all right. Well, that's what I wanted to discuss with you. She leaned forward conspiratorially. Eddie, I've been married for 52 years, and I know the signs. That man isn't just a friend. What makes you say that? The way he touches her, the way she looks at him, the fact that he's been coming around for months while you were deployed. She patted my hand gently. I'm sorry, dear. I know this must be difficult. I covered her hand with mine. Thank you for telling me. I know it wasn't easy. There's something else. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through what appeared to be a neighborhood watch app. Someone vandalized a car in the Riverside Towers garage last night. Spray-painted homewrecker on it. The police think it might be connected to a domestic situation. That's unfortunate. Yes, it is, though I have to say, some people bring these things on themselves. She gave me a meaningful look. Actions have consequences, don't they? They certainly do. After Mrs. Patterson left, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and thinking about consequences. Griffin was scared. That much was clear from his behavior yesterday. But scared men do unpredictable things, and I needed to stay 2 steps ahead of whatever desperate move he might make next. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Hello? We need to talk. Griffin's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. I thought I blocked your number. I got a new phone. Meet me tonight. Riverside Park, 8 p.m. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'm calling the police about my car, and then I'm telling them about the threatening messages. I almost laughed. What threatening messages? I told you to stay away from my wife. That's not a threat. It's a reasonable request from a concerned husband. You vandalized my car. Did I? Do you have proof? Witnesses? Security footage showing my face? I let the silence stretch. Because making false accusations to the police is a crime, Griffin. And I'm pretty sure your company has policies about employees who get arrested. You son of a bitch. Riverside Park, 8 p.m. Come alone. And Griffin, don't bring any recording devices. This conversation stays between us. I hung up before he could respond. The park was nearly empty when I arrived. Just a few joggers and dog walkers making their evening rounds. Griffin was sitting on a bench near the pond, hunched over his phone like he was texting someone. He looked up when he heard my footsteps, and I got my first good look at Noelle's boyfriend. He was exactly what I'd expected. Soft, pampered, the kind of man who'd never been punched in the face and couldn't imagine it happening to him. His clothes were expensive but casual, designed to make him look approachable and non-threatening. The kind of outfit that cost more than most people made in a week, but was supposed to look effortless. Eddie Rollins, I presume. Griffin Marchand, nice to finally meet you. I sat down on the opposite end of the bench, keeping my posture relaxed and non-threatening. How's the car? You know how the car is. Actually, I don't. I heard it was vandalized, but I don't know the details. Must have been upsetting. He studied my face, looking for any crack in my composure. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Noelle said you were volatile, quick to anger. She made it sound like you'd come at me swinging. Noelle says a lot of things. Not all of them are true. I turned to face him directly. She tell you about the baby? His jaw tightened. She told me. Congratulations. First kid? Look, I didn't come here to make small talk. No, you came here to threaten me with police reports and try to intimidate me into backing off. But here's the thing, Griffin. I'm not intimidated, and I'm not backing off. She doesn't love you anymore. Maybe not, but she's still my wife, and that's still my house you've been visiting. And those are still my sheets you've been rolling around on while I was overseas. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. I didn't know about that. The deployment, I mean. She said you were separated. When did she say that? Before or after you found out she was married? Before, when we first met at the company mixer. And after, when you found out the truth? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Let me paint you a picture, Griffin. You're a senior VP at a tech company, making good money, driving a nice car, living the bachelor lifestyle. Then you meet Noelle. Beautiful, smart, funny, everything you think you want in a woman. She tells you she's separated, unhappy, looking for someone who understands her. I leaned back against the bench, keeping my voice conversational. You start sleeping with her. Great sex, no commitment, all the benefits of a relationship without any of the responsibility. Then she tells you the truth. She's married, but don't worry, she's going to leave him soon. You should have walked away then, but you didn't, because the sex was too good, and she made you feel special. His face was getting red, but he didn't deny anything. Then she gets pregnant. Suddenly this fun, no-strings affair becomes very complicated. She's talking about leaving her husband, starting a life with you, raising a family together. All those bachelor lifestyle benefits are about to disappear, replaced by diapers and daycare, and a woman who's already proven she'll lie to get what she wants. I stood up, looked down at him. How am I doing so far? You don't know anything about us. I know enough. I know you're scared. I know you're in over your head. And I know you're starting to realize that Noelle isn't the woman you thought she was. She's leaving you. Is she? Because she's still living in my house, sleeping in my bed, wearing my ring. Seems like she's having trouble pulling that particular trigger. Griffin stood up too, trying to use his height advantage to intimidate me. He was taller than me by a few inches, but soft where I was hard, weak where I was strong. Stay away from my car. Stay away from my apartment. And stay away from me. Or what? Or I'll make your life very difficult. I stepped closer. Close enough that he could smell the coffee on my breath. Close enough that he had to look me in the eyes. Griffin, let me explain something to you. I spent 20 years in the army. 2 tours in Afghanistan. 1 in Iraq. I've been shot at, blown up, and left for dead. I've killed men who were trying to kill me, and I've buried friends who weren't as lucky as I was. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. You think you can make my life difficult? You're a middle manager who's never faced a real consequence in his entire privileged life. You wouldn't last 5 minutes in the world I come from. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. There's a difference. I stepped back, gave him space to breathe. But here's the thing. I'm not going to hurt you. I don't need to. You're going to destroy yourself, and I'm going to watch it happen. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're already in trouble at work. HR is asking questions about your relationship with Noel. It means your car is going to keep having problems until you get tired of dealing with them. It means everywhere you go, people are going to know what kind of man you are. I started walking away, then turned back. Oh, and Griffin, next time you want to meet, call first. I don't like surprises. I left him standing by the pond, staring after me with the dawning realization that he'd bitten off more than he could chew. 2 weeks later, everything came to a head. I was at the construction site when Mike found me, grinning like he'd won the lottery. You need to see this, he said, holding up his phone. The video was grainy, obviously shot from a distance, but the audio was crystal clear. Griffin and Noel in the parking lot outside TechFlow Solutions, having what could only be described as a screaming match. Despidi kunyun, dvambed. Noel's voice was shrill, panicked. You said he was a pushover. You said he'd roll over and take whatever we gave him. I was wrong, okay? I was wrong about a lot of things. This is insane, Noel. My car, my apartment building, he's everywhere. It's like he knows what I'm going to do before I do it. So what do you want me to do about it? I want you to handle your husband. He's not going to listen to me. Not anymore. The video quality was poor, but I could see Griffin grab Noel's arm, pull her closer. Then maybe it's time to cut our losses. What's that supposed to mean? It means maybe this whole thing was a mistake. Maybe we should have thought this through before we what? Before you got me pregnant? Before you told me you loved me? I never said I loved you. The silence that followed was deafening. Even through the grainy phone video, I could see Noel's face crumble. You bastard. Noel, wait. But she was already walking away, leaving Griffin standing alone in the parking lot. Where did you get this? I asked Mike. Anonymous email. Someone sent it to the neighborhood watch group, the company HR department, and about 50 other people. He grinned. Went viral on social media too. #homewrecker Griffin is trending. I handed him back his phone. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. That night, Noel didn't come home. I waited until midnight, then called her phone. It went straight to voicemail. Hi, you've reached Noel. Leave a message and I'll get back to you. It's me. I saw the video. We need to talk. Come home. She didn't. The next morning, I found her at her sister's house across town. She was sitting on the front porch in yesterday's clothes, staring at nothing. Rough night? I asked, settling into the chair next to her. He dumped me. I heard. 20,000 people have seen that video. 20,000 people watched him tell me he never loved me. I didn't say anything. Sometimes the best response is silence. I lost my job too. HR said my relationship with Griffin created a hostile work environment. They're calling it a voluntary resignation, but we both know what it really is. I'm sorry. She looked at me for the first time since I'd arrived. Are you? Really? I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm sorry you lost your job. I'm sorry our marriage fell apart. I leaned forward. But I'm not sorry you're finally seeing Griffin for who he really is. You did this. The video, the social media posts, all of it. You orchestrated this whole thing. Did I? Because it looked to me like Griffin made his own choices. I didn't force him to say those things to you. But you made sure everyone would see it. I made sure the truth came out. There's a difference. She was quiet for a long time, processing everything that had happened. What happens now? She asked finally. Now you decide what kind of person you want to be. Do you want to keep blaming everyone else for your choices? Or do you want to take responsibility and figure out how to move forward? I'm pregnant with another man's baby. My husband hates me. I don't have a job or a place to live. How exactly do I move forward from this? The same way everyone else does, one day at a time. I stood up, pulled an envelope from my jacket pocket. Divorce papers. I'm not asking for alimony, and I'm not trying to take everything you own. But I'm also not going to pretend this marriage can be saved. She took the envelope with shaking hands. Eddie, sign them, Noelle. Let us both move on with our lives. What about the baby? What about it? It's not mine, and we both know it. Griffin can figure out how to be a father, or you can raise it alone. But I'm done pretending to be something I'm not. I walked back to my truck, leaving her sitting on her sister's porch, with the wreckage of her choices spread out around her. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Noelle had signed the papers without contest, probably because she didn't have money for a lawyer and knew she didn't have a leg to stand on. Griffin had quietly left TechFlow Solutions, citing personal reasons in his resignation letter. Word around town was that he'd moved back to his hometown in Ohio, tail between his legs, reputation in ruins. I kept the house, kept my job, kept my dignity. Started dating a teacher named Sarah, who thought my scars were interesting instead of frightening, who laughed at my jokes and meant it. The baby was born in February, a little girl with Griffin's weak chin and Noelle's eyes. I heard about it through Mrs. Patterson, who heard about it through the neighborhood gossip network. Apparently Griffin had shown up at the hospital, taken one look at his daughter, and disappeared again. Some men just aren't built for responsibility. I never saw the baby, never wanted to. That part of my life was over, filed away with all the other painful memories I'd learned to carry. But sometimes, late at night when I couldn't sleep, I thought about that moment in the kitchen when I'd first seen Noelle's phone. The moment when everything changed, when the man I used to be died and someone harder, smarter, more calculating took his place. I thought about Griffin, probably working some middle management job in Ohio, jumping every time he heard footsteps behind him, wondering if today would be the day his past caught up with him again. I thought about Noelle, raising a daughter alone, trying to explain why daddy wasn't around, why mommy didn't have any friends anymore, why they had to move so often. And I thought about justice, not the kind you get from courts and lawyers, but the kind that comes from letting people destroy themselves with their own choices. Sometimes the best revenge isn't what you do to someone. Sometimes it's what you let them do to themselves.